Welcome back to the Torque Test channel. RIDGID has released an all-new subcompact impact wrench. It's basically like a Gen 2 model. This $150 purchase we made is the latest, greatest, and most powerful impact in this size class that they've ever made, and it's small. We're a bit zoomed in here, so probably doesn't look itty-bitty just yet, but this one comes in at 4.66 inches in length, which means it's shorter than a Milwaukee M18 compact made by the same TTI outfit, shorter than a Matco 16-volt mini, which we found to be quite powerful, and shorter than a DCF 921 DeWalt Atomic. Which means the only thing it's not shorter than in cordless is itself. The older model, the 208, which is 4.3 inches long, this new 208-1 being 1/3 of an inch longer or so, according to RIDGID, but 250 foot-pounds up from 225. But either way you look at it, this new orange model is shorter than even an M12 compact, making it the shortest impact TTI makes, including Milwaukee, and yet rated the same 250 foot-pounds as the M12 and the M18 for that matter. Sure, the battery adds some dimension to it that you don't get on a 12-volt tool quite as much, but so does the M18 model in that regard. The last subcompact RIDGID impact we tested, we felt did less than amazingly, and while many of our viewers felt otherwise about the model, the numbers didn't support it being a top recommendation from us. It had the size, but it didn't have the sauce. Then we later tested the subcompact 3-inch cutoff tool, sort of just throwing it into the mix with these others for good comparison, and found this little guy is quite a screamer. Smaller motor and footprint compared to the Ryobi brother, but without an impact mechanism or a gearbox to muddy the waters in data. It's just a pure brushless motor hooked up to a dyno. This thing made some of the most power of anything else, calling it a 3-inch cutoff tool in cordless. So if we could get some of that performance in this, I'd definitely be a subcompact convert, as that same motor for the size plugged into most tools would, well, it not suck. So of course we're going to pit it up against the Milwaukee Gen 3 M18 compact, but also Team Yellow in the form of the monstrous DCF 921, which is probably the top cordless compact for sale right now. Up first is our working torque test, 5 seconds and forward. Here's the Milwaukee and DeWalt's numbers first. So the Atomic makes more, not all that surprising so far. Here's the new subcompact from RIDGID. $163, okay, coming in a little bit below the Milwaukee rated for the same torque, but the last gen of subcompact made just 108 in this test, so I think we're doing well so far. And finally, we're going to add one more purchase to better expand on what other options you can spend for your 150 hard-earned dollars. So we're including one more yellowish tool in the form of an Amazon brand compact cordless from eWork. This model RB809 is $150 as well, and in typical Amazon brand fashion includes a charger and 4 amp hour battery with some accessories. This one caught our eye because it's a compact version of a mid-torque size impact that we're used to seeing in testing, so not many forms of this to pick from. And it advertises crazy numbers as usual, 520 foot-pounds of max torque and 800 foot-pounds of breakaway, which is just silly for a compact, though this one is certainly on the chunky side, taking a page out of like a Makita mid-torque or an Astro Thor and using girth to afford yourself wider diameter motors and hammers, which seem to really pump things up in the physics exponentially, we find. Let's see if it can do that in our first working torque test. $182 foot-pounds, still below the Atomic, so about where we expected on this one so far, being the unknown pedigree that we often get from Amazon purchases. Okay, max torque, 10 seconds in reverse, where we want to see these tools really shine. Here's the RIDGID taking on the M18 and Atomic again. $209 and passing up the Milwaukee from a roughly 4.5-inch tool. These two red and orange ones being rated the same, and seeing the RIDGID come in under the M18 in the first test, we felt we were sort of in for more of that. But thus far, really enjoying reverse. Okay, on for the eWork Amazon special. Let's see how it does. $289, not only beating the Atomic, which, I mean, it should for its size, but putting some gap on it. Yet another example of an impact preferring reverse, except when it comes to Amazon kit no-name deals like this, they are almost always biased in forward. The less useful direction for us, but somehow they almost always are, and heavily often. But this one off balance in favor of reverse, you love to see it. Okay, last testing series, batteries fresh off the charger, their best numbers. Let's see if the SubCompact can make an even best its 250 claim. $270, very nice, and it's not flattening out like many compacts do, and like the last SubCompact very much did. Its hammers are enough to make a difference at the end here despite their cramped compartment. This is very hard to pull off with a ball and sprung cam mechanism cordless impacts use. You need that length for a strong and effective spring to work, which compact air tools don't need to suffer from. Alright, time to see what the eWork can do in reverse. We're going to throw in the Makita now as well, since by our numbers, it's the most powerful cordless compact you can buy in this category. $341. Nice. Just surpassing the most powerful 18-volt anything in this size range, and in fact the Makita is actually a bit longer than this eWork, just much less chunky. A larger diameter hammer is sort of a cheat code from a physics perspective, which is why you see modern shorter tools looking stubbier and squared off at the drive end each generation, like the Milwaukee here with their mid-torque, and the compact M18 as well, and even their latest impact driver. In fact, probably one of the reasons we don't have a Gen 3 high torque from Milwaukee yet is, despite looking more tapered, the M18 2767 already has a over diametered hammer up front, here spilling over past the anvil dog, so there's not as much left on the table as some of those lower hanging fruit models. Let's head over to the ranking and see how today's models did. Starting below the M18 for now, their power runs are turned into points here. The Amazon tool belonging to a different list because of its kit-only format and Amazon brands not really having a warranty, but let's see where it fits in for now. That's 16, 21, and 27 for the RIDGID, and 18, 29, and 34 for the eWork. 4.66 inches in length earns this tool 58.2 foot-pounds per inch, which is up there on this list, and the eWork, using its dimensions and weight and other places, gets an even higher 62.3. This is where things change though. The RIDGID gets a max of 100% for its claimed torque numbers, whereas the Amazon tool's doing Amazon things, saying 520, which is like top shelf mid torque levels, so gets 66% for reaching 66% of that. The premise of the channel has always been to try to keep these brands honest after all. As a function of power and price, both of these purchases cost about the same, 27.3 points and 34.1. That totals 249.5 and 243.4, making the RIDGID one of the best cordless compacts you can buy, above the DeWalt DCF 911, which we found to be very good as well, and below the DCF 921 in cordless. The eWork places just below the DCF 911, also pleasantly surprised with this one. Here's where it's situated on a list of other alike tools who also advertise seemingly random numbers and don't carry a warranty, but really it belongs on an Amazon compact ranking, which we've not made before, as it's significantly shorter than all these. Recommend ones for us to buy below. As is the case, we often buy these Amazon wildcards to be just that, a wildcard, provide some context for what your dollars can buy. Sometimes they are surprisingly bad, sometimes they are surprisingly good. I think both tools today were the latter. This subcompact is more significant than you might understand, as RIDGID is usually the second child in the TTI household, getting the power tools equivalent of the unplugged console controller you give to your brother. Just a few years ago, their mid-torque was good, but Milwaukee's was better and shorter. The next-gen Rigid mid-torque was about as powerful as a Milwaukee is now, but again, Milwaukee is shorter. The high-torque Milwaukee is shorter than this, but this also made much more power to make up for that, so of course they canned it in favor of a shorter, less powerful Rigid high-torque for more money that has a better motor inside of it than the Milwaukee, but they lightened the hammer so it wouldn't be as powerful. The SubCompact, maybe SubCompacts of the future too, if their 3-inch cutoff tool is any indication, because that thing slaps too. These represent the best compact 18-volt tools TTI can make right now. The Rigid is finally shorter and more powerful than the Milwaukee, which basically never happens. And why? I think because Rigid doesn't have anything but an 18-volt line. So if you want compact, better make an 18-volt motor and tool tiny. Milwaukee has a great M12 line to the point where we've never recommended buying this, their M18, because this makes the same power with a smaller footprint. M12's often just that good. Rigid has no M12, so it pushes the brand to make these while Milwaukee is busy making M12 stuff, which is good for you. It's just good in general, really. Excited to see what else they can pump out in this subcompact form. That is a step above in the future. Appreciate you joining us for this episode. We make these at least every Friday. Click subscribe to come along with us for that, and thanks for watching.